And finally, the buck stops with you. It's always your fault. Hi guys, welcome back. My name is Alistair, and for the last 17 years I've been running my business straight out of university. This is my channel for thoughts, tips, musings, advice, and just stuff that you can use in your business. So today I just wanted to talk to you about the realities of running your own business, being an entrepreneur, starting a business from scratch, because I think a lot of people see it as kind of glamorous. They kind of like the idea that they can run their own thing and, don't have anyone to answer to and choose their own hours and all those kind of things. And believe me, those things are good. But actually, the reality is that it's really hard. So I saw this video, this keynote by Gary Vaynerchuk the other day, and I absolutely love this clip. There's some blue language in it, so please, if you don't like that, switch out, turn off or fast forward for 20 odd seconds just so you don't see that, because he does like to drop the F-bomb, I'm afraid. But the stuff he says is really good. It's kind of gold dust, really, for me. So I'll leave you with that clip very quickly, and then we'll come back and talk about it afterwards.
One of the things that I feel a huge responsibility for, because I'm such a proponent of entrepreneurship, is to also talk about the practical nature of entrepreneurship. There's an underlining thing going on in the Silicon Valley ecosystem that hits the entire world, which is we are seeing very quiet underlying suicide in our space because there are people who are not equipped to be entrepreneurs. Because let me tell you what entrepreneurs do. They get punched in the fucking face 24/7, 365 for the rest of their lives.
So what I really like about that clip is that he's kind of saying what a lot of people want to say but never do. And I think that's unfair, because we kind of blow up entrepreneurship or running your own business into this big thing that is like really super glamorous and people should do it. And actually it's not always right for people. And, what he's talking about there, being punched in the face, is so true. If you could bring a product or a service to market, and people might hate it, and you've got to take that on the chin. You've got to take that feedback, and you've got to decide whether you're going to listen to it and keep going, or if you're going to actually take that feedback in a positive light and maybe even change the way you do things all the time. People might not want to buy what you've got to sell, believe it or not. I think we all believe in our products and services, but sometimes the market doesn't, and that's just part of life. That's part of what running a business is about. People sometimes won't understand what you're about as an entrepreneur. They're not going to understand the decisions you make and the way you do things, because again, you probably think about things in a slightly different way to the majority of people, and sometimes that can be hard for people. And more often than not, you'll come up against negativity, people telling you can't do it, and again, you have to try and get through that. But it's a challenge. Money's not easy to make. Money doesn't come on trees. This isn't something that everyone can do or everyone would be doing it. So, making money, especially if you've got staff who rely on that money for their incomes, for their families, you put food on their table effectively. It's a big weight on your shoulders when you have that kind of pressure on you as somebody who runs a business. The pressure on personal life can be enormous as well. Especially in the early years when running a business, you probably are going to spend every waking hour that you have put into that business, and that can have a knock-on effect on your personal life, relationships with your friends, with your family. And again, I just want to get across the reality of this, that it isn't necessarily as easy as kind of people think. There's no one to turn to when you run a business. If you're the top of the tree, there is literally nobody to ask about. Yes, you can ask people, but ultimately it doesn't necessarily affect them as much as it affects you. So, who's to say whether the advice that they're giving is based on all the factual information that you've got, and therefore, how much of that can you take on board? And, there isn't anyone to turn to, and it can be quite a lonely place as well if that's the case. I'm lucky I've got a business partner in my business who I can bounce ideas off, and We can just talk about things. He brings me back down to earth sometimes, which is helpful. But yeah, no, that's the reality again of being at the top of a tree. You know, and finally, the buck stops with you. It's always your fault. And again, I think I see this in other businesses where the owner doesn't necessarily take responsibility for things and looks to blame people quite a lot. And I don't like that. I don't think that's a trait that's very nice to have. I think, you know, it's always the owner's fault. Whatever happens in their business, it's the buck stops with them. You know, it's their fault for making the wrong decision or the wrong hire or, you know, has said the wrong thing at some point or not given enough training or whatever it might be. You know, it is always your fault. And again, the pressure of that on your shoulders across multiple people, if you do employ people, is heavy. And again, I just want to kind of get across the reality of that. And that's what Gary's really talking about when he's talking about being punched in the face 24/7, 365. Sometimes can actually feel like that. And, you know, this video really isn't, it's not to put you off this, because I love it. It's ultimately so rewarding, you know, not working for anyone, choosing the hours that I work, choosing the work that I do. All of those kind of things are things that I wouldn't change for the world. But I do think it's my responsibility to ensure that, you know, you guys are, if you're thinking about going into running your own business, then you go in with your eyes open, because it isn't as easy as maybe the press, the media make out. It's not necessarily the glamorous lifestyle that you think it might be. And, you know, guys, if you're thinking about doing this and you think it's going to turn you into a millionaire, the small percentage of people that happens to, well, it's minute, you know, it doesn't happen to us all. But, you know, it can give you a very comfortable living. So it's down to you. It's your choice whether you do this or not. But go into it with your eyes wide open if you can. So there you go, guys. Hope that's useful today. Sorry it's slightly sombre, but it's an important message nonetheless. So, until then, I'll see you next time.